Good morning to everyone. It's Tuesday? We're rolling along onto rookie minicamp this weekend, and we're finally going to get to meet some of these 49ers players, including Samuel Womack III. And that's what this live video is about. The 49ers' new nickelback with some potential outside cornerback versatility. But first, there was just some breaking news. Tom Brady, a 10-year, $375 million deal with Fox once his NFL career ends. He's essentially going to replace Troy Aikman as the main color analyst. Remember, Troy Aikman departed to ESPN. He'll be with Monday Night Football. So Joe Buck, Troy Aikman out at Fox. Big time investment from Fox into Tom Brady. 10 years, $375 million. The takeaway here is that the huge money is in television. Remember that this is also applied to the 49ers. John Lynch turned down about $15 million per year earlier this offseason to head on over to Amazon to stay the 49ers GM at about $5 million per year. So John Lynch turned down what would have essentially been a 3x pay raise with more job security, because you're not going to fire John Lynch from a TV job. NFL coaches, GMs, those are fickle jobs, right? If you start losing, you're not going to stay all too long. But in television, you're essentially locked in, especially if you have John Lynch's pedigree. But he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do Amazon for $15 million per year. He every single interview with John Lynch where something like this is discussed, he always brings up the fact that he wants those competitive juices to remain flowing. There's a deep appreciation from John Lynch, a former player, for the scoreboard. He wants the scoreboard to be there. He wants wins. He wants losses. He obviously doesn't want to lose, but he wants that to be tracked. He wants to go out there and be able to compete. And when he's in the broadcast booth, he's still around the game, but he can't compete at the level that he does as the general manager of a football team. So for guys like John Lynch, it's absolutely worth it to take less money, 10 million less per year, to remain in that competitive spot. Now for Tom Brady, I think it's also absolutely worth it for him to stay in that competitive spot. That's why he came out of retirement, right? But he's just going to play as long as he can. As long as Tom Brady can play, he's going to continue playing. And then when he's done, this 10-year, $375 million deal kicks in. Probably smart from Fox's perspective, because Fox can lock Tom Brady in at that rate right now and say that he still plays 2 or 3 more years, because who knows with Tom Brady, maybe the going rate for these analysts is going to be much higher in 2 or 3 years. So to sign the contract with Brady now at 10 years and $375 million might enable Fox to get a bit of a discount, because the huge money is indeed in television, and that's blowing up as we speak. So just wanted to cover the quick news this morning. Now we'll go on to Samuel Womack III. 45 passes defended at Toledo, school record. The 49ers picked this guy in the 5th round, and the piece that you see up on the screen right now is my article for The Athletic, which is available to you in the chat section. So go ahead, check that out, subscribe to The Athletic. It's a conversation with Toledo coach Jason Candle, who's been there for several years. Candle recruited Samuel Womack out of the Detroit area. He has seen a lot of success at Toledo, but especially at the wide receiver position. A lot of good players have come through that wide receiver position for Toledo under Jason Candle, most notably Deontay Johnson, who plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But there are a few other guys, including Cody Thompson, who's now with the Seahawks, and those guys all helped sharpen Samuel Womack while he was in college. But the thing that jumps out to you the most about Womack are the 45 passes defended, including 40 actual pass breakups where he got his hand on the ball over his time playing for the Toledo Rockets. And the PBUs, that, the 15 that he recorded in 2021, his senior season, ranked number 2 in the nation. So obviously Womack is doing something right. I'll talk about how fast he is. I'll talk about how long his arms are, but to break the ball up 40 times over your college career and to have 45 passes defended over the course of your college career and to rank number 2 in the nation in any given season, and that was the case with the 15 PBUs, you have to be a student of the game. You have to combine that athleticism with anticipation, because the offense has the advantage in football, especially rules-wise these days, but just in general. The guiding principle of offense versus defensive play is that the receiver knows where he's going and the defensive back doesn't. The defensive back has to react. So that inherent advantage for the offense means that there's going to be some guessing and there's going to be a whole lot of pre-snap responsibility for any defensive back to be able to see some success. So whenever you see somebody with as many PBUs as Samuel Womack had at college in Toledo, you know that he's doing his homework. You know that he's a good, smart player who's anticipating where the football is going to go. And you know that he has to be both athletic and football smart to be able to deliver those kind of results. So, speaking of athleticism, Womack, 4.3940. He can absolutely run. Toledo has produced a lot of fast players over the course of the past several years. And when I talked to Jason Candle, their head coach, I asked him about that. And he said, this is part of who we are. We have a good strength program that focuses on speed there in that MAC conference. Kadar Hallman, he's a 49ers cornerback who you might not even know is on the roster. They have a lot of guys on the roster here who are more obscure players since it's a 90-man in the offseason. But Hallman, he's a couple-year NFL vet, played a little bit with the Packers. 49ers signed him to a futures deal in February. He's a former teammate of Samuel Womack's at Toledo, and Hallman ran a 4.3640. So you could go through Deontay Johnson, you can go through Cody Thompson, some of the receivers that Toledo's had, and of course Samuel Womack and Kadar Hallman, two 49ers defensive backs now out of the same school, both 4.340 guys, both developed a lot of that speed at Toledo, and both, have captured the 49ers' attention because they can absolutely fly on the football field. Now, it's not likely that Hallman makes the roster. It is likely that Womack makes the roster as a 2022 draft pick. And it's really interesting to me that John Lynch was just so bullish about the speed in the very immediate post-draft interviews about this process. In short, Womack is built like K'Wan Williams and DJ Reed, two former 49ers nickelbacks. But he runs a faster 40. Both Reed and Williams were 5'9". Both had 31 and 5/8 inch arms. So that's a nice wingspan for a guy that's 5'9". I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit because Samuel Womack has even longer arms than Reed and K'Wan Williams. He's 31 and 7/8 inches. So all three of these guys have really long arms, especially for their 5'9" frame. But Womack is exceptional in that regard at almost 32 inches, which 32 inches is where Richard Sherman is. And Richard Sherman is 6'3" with his arm length. So the body types, though, are very similar across the board here for K'Wan, for DJ Reed, and with Samuel Womack. But both K'Wan and DJ Reed, they both ran 4.4 mid at best, right? To 4.5. I think DJ was 4.51. Might have been a little bit hurt at the combine, though, back when he ran in 2018. And K'Wan, older than both of these guys, Womack and DJ Reed. He was, I think, low 4.44, maybe 4.43, high 4.52. Whereas you have Samuel Womack, who delivered that 4.39 for Toledo. So the fact that he could really run was an eye-opening thing that grabbed the 49ers' attention. On to the arm length. Womack is the only 5'9" corner prospect that came out of this year's draft with an arm length above 31 inches, and he's 31 and 7/8. So he's nearly 32 inches. There's nobody else. Everybody else who has those type of arm measurements, they're at least 5'11" and almost always 6 feet tall. So what does that do for Womack? Well, this is interesting because in that slot cornerback position, you're going to be facing a lot of slot wide receivers who are shorter, who are going to be great with the short area quickness. And it's often not an advantage to be taller when you have to work in short spaces. Those small guys that are going to be so shifty, right? You remember Wes Welker was one of the prototypical slot wide receivers. He leverages the fact that he isn't tall to his advantage. Low center of gravity, is able to shuffle those feet, get open on the quick slant or the quick out patterns. That timing game could carve defenses apart. So in a way, you want the shorter corner to be able to match up with those guys and their footwork at that slot position. But at the same time, you don't want short arms, right? You want the benefit of the taller cornerback's long arms, and you want to pair it with the shorter quarterback's agility. And the 49ers feel that they can have that with Samuel Womack, who's 5'9", has the 6'8" cone time, which means that he's, as agile as you expect him to be at that shorter height, but he also has the arm length of a 6'3" cornerback. So therein lies the combination that the 49ers really like, not only for potential slot cornerback duty, but for potential outside flex duty. If in a pinch they need this guy on the outside, they believe that the long arms and the 4.39 speed allows him to play bigger than his 5.9 frame. But they want him to play in that 5.9 frame for the inside, and they obviously need a replacement for K'Wan Williams and also for DJ Reed, who left a couple years ago. By the way, Reed, he's shown inside-out versatility, right, with the Seattle Seahawks, and now the Jets signed him for $33 million because they want him to play on the outside, and that's Robert Saleh. That's the 49ers' former coaching staff there. So I absolutely could see the 49ers trying out Samuel Womack at an outside cornerback position. The thing is, they probably don't need that immediately, right? With now Jason Verrett's back in tow, but obviously you have Charvarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley, an underrated player who's coming off a really good 2021 season. We talk about mentality. That's a big deal in this article. Womack is a former walk-on, got that underdog mentality, earned a scholarship out of Detroit. He actually played against Ambry Thomas, another corner that I should note in that list of 49ers outside guys. Played against Ambry Thomas in high school in that Detroit area. Bet on himself, went to Toledo, was a basketball player in high school. And, you know, there's some speculation that because he was also a dedicated basketball player on the AAU circuit, he didn't go to as many football recruiting camps and showcases, and that might have been why he was under-recruited. Either way, went to Toledo in 2017, earned the scholarship by 2018. That was a huge deal. Jason Candle, in this article that I wrote, Toledo's head coach, talked about how Samuel Womack was raised the right way. And, you know, he talked about Kadar Hallman, too. Both of these guys having underdog mentalities because they're former walk-ons at Toledo, which isn't a big school to begin with. And they found a way to grit through and get drafted. Hallman got drafted a few years ago, not by the 49ers. He's with them now. Womack drafted by the 49ers in the 5th round. And Jason Candle, Toledo's coach, without being prompted, said that that's reflective of what the 49ers organization seeks for in players. So it's no coincidence, I think, that the 49ers under John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have brought in a lot of FCS guys, a lot of former walk-ons, a lot of guys who have proven themselves over the course of their college career, because that's the kind of blue-collar mentality that the 49ers want in building the locker room to their liking. And, you know, the last thing that Jason Candle said is that comes from the top down. That starts at the GM spot. So we started this conversation about John Lynch turning down TV money from Amazon, and we ended with John Lynch and the culture that he and Kyle Shanahan have built with the 49ers. All right, one more time. Going to post this in the comment section. Samuel Womack, Jason Candle, Toledo's coach, talks about the 49ers 5th round prospect. Hope you enjoyed the video. I've got to run today, but make sure you go and subscribe to this channel, but obviously subscribe to The Athletic and check out that article on Samuel Womack. We're going through all the 49ers draft picks. A lot of good stuff coming up. I can't really reveal who I just talked to and who I'm scheduled to talk to today, but it's going to be an exciting one. So sub to the channel, sub to The Athletic, sub everywhere. We'll see you guys soon. Have a great Tuesday.